Welcome to this Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call. It is February 28th, 2023. My name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a Principal Product Manager in the Microsoft 365 platform areas. And today, we again have a really cool call covering a few different things. Some of those demos are part of a larger series, which are right now ongoing. And then we have a additional bonus cool demo coming as well. But we'll first start with an update on the news on the Microsoft 365 platform and the Power Platform areas, so covering what's happening within this week. And we'll then cover the news, well, not just the news, but also the assets, how to get started on things and community assets. We'll also cover the news from Microsoft side in different blogs, and then we'll have the update on all of the Microsoft Teams development guidance updates on the documentation. Then we'll have the group photo in the together mode taken. So for those who are willing, you can enable the camera and we'll grab a GIF animation out of that, which will be shared within the social media after the call. And then we'll go to the actual stars of the day. So we'll have Ayça talking about Dynamically Create Microsoft Teams meeting using Microsoft Graph. Really cool stuff for sure. Garry is going to continue his series. IGAS, by the way, demo is part of the Azure Communication Teams, Azure Communication Services series, which is ongoing right now with 8 different slots. Then Garry continues his series related on Teams Toolkit, covering the Microsoft Teams Toolkit Learning Path. And this time we're going to talk about building a bot using a Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. And then as the last demo of the day, we have David Rousset talking about remotely debug your Microsoft Teams apps from any device using Vorlon.js. So really cool stuff on the schedule. We'll get to the demos latest on quarter past. So every single demo has 15 minutes to go through. Before we go there, a few typical assets. So just recapping, we have a Microsoft 365 Power Platform community video channels available where we publish all of the demos from these calls and all of the other calls, community calls which we are executing, and the community call recording. So you cannot access the community call recording directly from the chat. Go to the YouTube channel within 24 hours and you are able to access that from there. We just recently created a new LinkedIn group for discussions and updates. Great way of asking help or sharing your findings. So it is for you to use as well, so not just for us to share any updates and articles, but if you find something interesting in the internet or from social media or whatever, you can add a comment there if you don't want to share that within your own profile in LinkedIn, or you can do both. Just there to have a nice discussion between the people from Microsoft and non-Microsoft community members. We have a lot of open source community assets available from multiple different locations. But as it might be a bit difficult to get and find all of the awesome samples what our community and Microsoft is providing, we have also our sample galleries, which are making it easier to find the relevant sample for you. So main idea here is that you can start from something rather than from scratch. So you have a reference point or you have sample which is showing you how to make ABC functionality to happen, and then you're able to copy that to your own implementation. And if you're wondering that there's too many URLs to remember, luckily there is only one, which is akms/community/home, which is the home page of all of these URLs and assets and locations. So one URL to remember where you can access everything. Now, we do have quite a few community calls happening throughout the week and throughout the month. So this is the one which is happening every single Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. We have extended this a bit on the naming side. So it's not just Microsoft 365 platform, but also Power Platform, because we do have Power Platform demos in this calls every now and then as well. And in this call, the presenters are always Microsoft employees. So either PMs, cloud advocates, engineers, and so on, who are showcasing the art of possible from a Microsoft perspective. Then our other calls are more focusing on community demos. So we do have a Power Platform community monthly call, Microsoft Identity monthly call, Office Admins monthly call, and then our 7 a.m. Thursday series, which is either Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call with community demos, or Viva Connection and SharePoint Framework call, which is with community demos as well. So that's cycling every single Thursday, 7 a.m. Pacific time. You can download recurrent invites from the AKMS/community/call, and the agendas for these calls are always published in social media and in AKMS/community/meetup. And this is our meetup location where you can sign up for those updates so you know advance what is going to be covered within these calls. So you can decide, do you want to be on the live in the call to have a discussion in a chat, or do you want to check the recording afterwards? Whatever works for you is fine for us. Now, talking about these calls, we actually want you to do some of these demos, not because we wouldn't have cool stuff to show, but it's actually, as you build something, you probably learn the real world experiences on, okay, how did it actually work? Or how did you use some of the Teams Toolkit or SharePoint framework or Power Platform capabilities within your actual implementation? Or you maybe implemented a sample. We would love you to actually do demo that stuff within these calls. And we want to actually give you this opportunity. So potentially you would be able to get an MVP status or at least get acknowledged by Microsoft from your contributions within the social media and within the open source areas. So please, if you're interested, sign up using the AKMS/community/request/demo. So you can fill in the form. We'll get you scheduled in the future calls. We do have a lot of assets to get started on the Microsoft 365 areas. We have the Microsoft 365 developer program. You'll get a free E5 developer tenant if you register there, and then you are able to use the Microsoft Learn material to understand what is the art of possible when you start extending, for example, the Microsoft 365 topics within that tenant. So to take advantage of these free assets. We also do have different podcasts and video podcasts available. So we have the Microsoft 365 Dev podcast at m365podcast.com to be hosted by Jeremy Thake and Paul Schaffelin, or Jeremy Thake and Ayça Pash, and depending on the week. Really, really cool stories related on what partners are building and what they found interesting within Microsoft 365. We also have the Microsoft 365 PMP Weekly, which focuses on what has happened within the past week across the different Microsoft blog posts and also community blog posts, and that's hosted by me and Waldeck Mastercards. And then we have a really new Power Platform Connection series hosted by David Warner and Hugo Bernier, which also has visitors to talk about their experiences within the community and their experiences on building capabilities within the Power Platform. Now, quickly recapping where you can get started on finding samples. And I forget about updating that number. We are past 1,500 samples in our unified Microsoft 365 and Power Platform sample gallery. So you can find from there hundreds and hundreds of samples, cool samples to get started. These samples are all available in a GitHub. You can use the simple search query to find them. And thank you, David, probably on updating the numbers on fly on the slide. That's a really nice way of fixing things if I'm forgetting to update something. But really, really great asset to find the relevant sample provided by Microsoft or by the community. So please do take advantage of this one. Now, as you find the sample, you might be wondering on, okay, so there's a sample, now it's in GitHub. What would I do now? Maybe you're not familiar with that. Luckily, we do have you covered, and I will let David talk about what is Sharing is Caring initiative.
Awesome. Thanks, Vesa. Yeah, friends, are you going to help us get to 2,000 samples? We hope so. But to do that, we need to understand GitHub. Well, Sharing is Caring is a program that was provided originally just to give a lot of GitHub experience. But as you can see via the topics and sessions, it has expanded. These are safe space opportunities that are live meetings that we get together with you in, other MVPs, members of the community, members of Microsoft, and walk you through how to accomplish things. Like perhaps you're not familiar with that landscape of GitHub and pull requests and Git clone and forking and all that kind of stuff. We will show you and work on it together, and it's a safe space. That means you can ask any and all questions. Don't need to worry about it being recorded because it is not, and we will work together in empowering you and giving you that experience that you need to do more in the community. And we thank you all for joining. They are all free. We've got more sessions scheduled up for March. We're getting even more sessions in March as well. And as we move into the rest of 2023, you can access these at ak.ms/sharingiscaring. That's it. Back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, David, on that one. Now, a few things. Tomorrow we'll start the Hack Together event, which is focusing on Microsoft Graph and .NET development. And this is a really cool event organized with Microsoft Graph organization together with .NET organization. So you will see Scott Hanselman, you will see Gina Arenas, you will see Fabian Williams, you will see a lot of other people presenting cool stuff around the Microsoft Graph and .NET development. That starts tomorrow on the 1st of March. So we highly recommend you to sign up for that one. So every single day, something new, not too much, but learning new things, what you can do with Microsoft Graph within the .NET world. So really, really cool stuff. Quick recap also on other events which are coming this spring. So we have the Microsoft 365 conference coming up on May 2nd to May 4th and 2023. And Jeff Deeper is really the main host here. He is the CVP president, actually, nowadays, on Microsoft, owning the Microsoft 365 collaboration and platforms, including Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, and many, many other things as well. So really, really great opportunity of hearing the latest from Microsoft and from the community. We also have a more European-based location, which is European Collaboration Summit 2023, happening in Düsseldorf in late May, so 24th and 26th of May. So if you're based in Europe and you're not looking into flying to US, we got you covered. Great and big event coming up as well with 30 Microsoft speakers, 12 Microsoft RDs, those are regional directors, and 80 Microsoft MVPs. So a lot of opportunities for in-person engagement and networking in there as well. Now, on the US side, we also have the 365 EduCon organizing quite a few events this year. So please do take advantage of this as well. So the EduCon DC is happening June 12th to 16th, 2023. Check out the agendas there. The sessions and everything is already available for you to know what's available there. And then the next Power Platform site is actually happening in the European Power Platform Conference, which is happening at June 20 to 22nd in 2023 in Dublin. I've been in that venue. That venue is really good and it works really well. And Dublin as a location, travel location, is awesome as well. In general, we have a lot of other community events also available. You can find all of these from AKMS/community days or communitydays.org. Not sure if the AKMS address is actually needed for a URL, which is communitydays.org. Anyway, but you'll find a lot of events, which part of them are in person, part of them are virtual. So please check out what's available for you to attend as well. This week, there's quite a lot of news actually on the developer blog side. So we had Microsoft Graph Developer Proxy news, Microsoft Graph To-Do APIs with updates, for example, app-only support in there. There's a new version of SharePoint Framework 1.17, and there's a preview related on getting started on Hack Together Microsoft Graph and .NET, and that's the event which is starting tomorrow. Not going to go too detailed in here, and to save some time for other topics and the cool demos which we have available coming up soon. Now, before we go to the Together Mode picture and the actual demos, I will let, is it Surbhi or Wajid to talk about what's latest on the Teams platform updates.
Thank you, Vesa. It will be Surbhi. Hello, everyone. We have 2 updates to cover. First, we've released docs on changelog for Developer Portal. This new feature will enhance the user experience by providing developers with a more streamlined way to view updates and changes made to the Teams Developer Portal. Second, enable SSO for adaptive card universal actions in your bot. With single sign-on in Teams, app users have the advantage of using Teams to access adaptive card universal actions in a bot. After logging into Teams using Microsoft or Microsoft 365 account, app users can use your app without the need to sign in again. So this is what we had for today. If you have any feedback or suggestion, please post on aka.ms Teams platform feedback. The link is available in the footer. You could also configure to the RSS feed to get regular platform updates. Over to you, Vesa.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Surbhi, on that one. Really, really cool to see the weekly updates in this side as well. Now, it's time then for Together Mode picture. So if you're willing, you can enable the camera and we'll grab a GIF animation. 50 seats in a house. I'm hearing rumors that we will have more seats soonish in these Together Mode pictures as well. So it's not limited anymore to 50, but we'll see when that will happen. A few more. Let's wait for the full house to actually arrive. I think we're more than 200 live attendees again on the call. Easily. Is that already 50? Still a few more. Maybe we're hitting the limit. Okay, I will put the recording on and we can say 3, 2, 1, and let's do some hand waving. Say everybody. Thanks to everybody once again joining. Really awesome to have you on a call. Great to see familiar faces and new faces every single week here as well. Excellent. Really, really, really cool. Thank you for that. Excellent. Now we will grab a GIF animation out of that for sure. Now let's then go to the actual demos and the stars of today. So we'll start with Ayça, who's going to talk about creating the Microsoft Teams meetings using Microsoft Graph, and then we move to Garry and then David in the end. And everybody has 15 minutes, so let's get moving. Ayça?
Awesome. Thanks, Vesa. Let me share my screen. I turn off my camera, but in one point you'll probably see me through ACS. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the session. For the ones who don't know me, my name is Ayça. I'm a cloud developer advocate at Microsoft. And today I will be talking about one part of the series we already started, I think, at the beginning of February or end of January. So my colleague Dan Wallin already delivered 3 sessions about this series. And in the first one, he talked about how to integrate audio and video calling from a custom app into a Teams meeting. In the second one, he showed how to create Azure Communication Service resource on Azure. And last week, he went through how to integrate ACS calling feature into a React app. If you're interested in diving into those sessions, you can go to the M365 community channel on YouTube and watch the recordings. Today, we will talk about how we can dynamically create a meeting in Teams using Microsoft Graph, because so far we were just creating the Teams meeting and then using the URL through ACS and also on Teams. But at this point, we would like to leverage from Microsoft Graph to automate some of these stuff. And I will just walk you through quickly how we can do that. And just so that you know, next week I will be here again and I will talk about how you can dynamically create ACS identity and token instead of just going and grabbing them and copying and pasting. We will just automate that process too. And in the final week, then we'll be back again just to show you how you can deploy your app on Azure. Just to quickly walk you through what's going to be the app look like. In the customer viewpoint, we will have a custom ACS app where our customers can leverage from. Dan will be our customer here. As soon as he starts the call, the customer service agent will receive a meeting on the calendar, and she can jump in the call and also get the guest person in, which is our customer. So in this demo, we see that customer is requesting to join and both of them are in. The only difference is that customer is using the ACS custom app and the agent is using Teams to join this meeting. So far, we are trying to build this experience by using Azure Communication Services, Microsoft Teams, and Graph. And in the process, as you can imagine, we are consuming Microsoft Teams meeting URL. So today, we will learn how we can create that meeting link dynamically. So obviously, you can go ahead and create a Teams meeting and consume the URL from ACS. But at the same time, instead of doing that, you can leverage some of the automation tools such as Azure Functions in this case. We are using Azure Functions HTTP trigger to call Microsoft Graph automatically whenever a customer requests to meet with an agent. And today, I will show you how you can do that. But to start with, I just want to quickly show you, if you don't know what Graph is, I want to show you a great place to start. So let me go here. Okay, so we have a great place. Probably if you're in the community for a long time, you know what Graph is. But if you're new, Microsoft Graph is the unified API for Microsoft 365 data and intelligence. If you're looking forward to getting data from, let's say, popular apps on Microsoft, such as Outlook, Teams, To-Do, Planner, you can leverage from graph.microsoft.com, and you can change the URL, such as, in this case, I'm logged in with my demo account, and when I run this, I can get the person profile information about me, but also I can change this data by just updating the URL. I can get calendar events, for example. While I'm doing that, I get all of the events from my calendar, but also I can create new calendar event by just doing a simple post request to this URL. So the only thing I have to do is just defining what's going to be the event details, such as name, time, and so on. And today we will consume exactly this API to dynamically create Teams meeting URL in the calendar invite behind the scenes. So let me get back to my slides. Let's go through the code really quickly. Just to start with, in the setup, we will need Graph Client. And to do that, we will need authentication because we cannot get anyone's information without asking their permission. So in this part of the code, we are just doing the app-only oath so that we are consuming Azure Active Directory app to get the registration and then create Graph Client. When we create the authorization provider, we will just create the Graph Client. In the next step, we're doing something exciting, which is the Graph Call. We define start and end time of the meeting, and we are actually doing that in this app specifically. We are doing that by using the time at the moment, and then we're adding 1 hour on top of it as an end time. And then we create Microsoft Graph URL to call. In our case, it's calendar/events. And we're using user ID here instead of /me because we want to dynamically create this for all the customer agents, not only one person. So user ID will be different for each and every agent. So after that, we define the meeting event details such as subject, start, and time zone. And after that, we will just send event data to Microsoft using the Microsoft Graph Client. And I will show the real code as well, but just going through really quickly. In the React app side, when we will get triggered whenever user effect hook runs. We trigger that user effect hook whenever a customer start on the start call button. That means that whenever someone click on start call, then we will call Azure Functions, which will get all the data from Microsoft Graph. So we will trigger Azure Functions, which will create Teams URL to join the meeting by using Microsoft Graph. And finally, we will return the meeting link, and it will be used by Azure Communication Service. Also, the same meeting, our agent will join by using Microsoft Teams. Okay, let's get into the demo. And I think I have time for that. Cool. So where is my demo? Okay. So I have two pieces in this demo. One is my own React app, and the other one is Azure Functions. Just to get started easily, I just first want to show you how my app looks like at the moment. This is my React app, and you can find the React app under ACS-2 Teams meeting, client React, and underneath you can go to app TSX, and this will be our app. The main area for us in this dynamic functionality is use effect. Whenever we trigger this, then we call React app Teams meeting function. This is defined behind the scenes in .env file. Let's go and check. It is defined as my function HTTP trigger. So whenever I click on the join the call button, then I trigger this function. Let's take a look quickly how my function looks like. And if you're looking for the server, the function, Azure Functions part, you can go to server-TypeScript, and underneath you will see Teams meeting function. And index.ts will be the place you will be seeing all the function details. The only thing we do in the HTTP trigger, to be honest, is only calling the graph function on another folder. So we create a new meeting by using this function, and let's go quickly check what does that function do. On the top, I already showed in the slides, we have the authentication app only. And then at the bottom, we are using the graph client we created on top just to make a graph call. Here we define start time, which is now, end time 1 hour later. We create graph URL to call user/user ID calendar events. After that, we define the details of the event, name, start, end, and finally we make the graph call. At the end of this function, we return the entire event. But let's go back one step and check what we return in Azure Functions. As body of the meeting, we get all the details about the calendar invite, including the URL. And one critical thing I forgot to mention is that when you're creating the event, you will have to define this is on online meeting true, because as default, it's coming as false. And if you want to create this event invite as Teams meeting, then you will have to define this as true. Here we return all the details about the event, but we only want to get meeting.onlinemeeting.join URL, which is the Teams meeting link. And we pass this through our React app. And here, as you can see, link is defined as response. And that means that our link is delivered till this part just to be consumed by ACS feature in our React app. So this is how our app code looks like, and we already have the link to share with you. You can take a look and try by yourself too. Let me show you how the actual app looks like. It runs on localhost 3000, and you've seen that our functions are running it behind the scenes as well. So the only thing for us at this moment is just to run the app and test out if it will create the calendar invite with a Teams URL, so our agent and the customer can meet in the same link. Okay, let me turn on my camera. Hi. And I will click on start the call. As a customer, I'm waiting to join the call because I'm the guest. Let's go to Teams and check out the calendar. Yes, so we have the meeting created already. I will turn off everything just to prevent echo and join the meeting. And see that our guest is here. I will admit it, and both of us will be here live. Yay. So behind the scenes, the only thing we did is we created the Teams meeting link dynamically by using Microsoft Graph, so that we don't have to go to the calendar, create the invite, copy paste the link for ACS, so on and so forth. So everything is automated. And finally, I don't want to miss the opportunity to share all the resources, because usually I miss this part. I'm always out of time. If you're interested in trying this tutorial, the second link here is the GitHub repo, and there's also a tutorial available step by step. You can check out our repo and take a look at the solution, as well as you can follow the tutorial to complete the entire sample built from scratch. If you're also interested in other Microsoft Cloud integration scenarios, then Wallin and I work on different types of scenarios, and it's available under ak.ms/Microsoft-Cloud. There's also samples repo available, which is a third link. If you are new to ACS and if you like the UI we used in the React, there's actually a library you can leverage. The fourth link, ak.ms/acs-ui-library, you can find all the goodies for the UI and use them. It's really easy to consume. And if you're new to functions, there are different types of functions. In this example, I use HTTP trigger, but if you want to learn more what types of functions available other than what we use, you can also check Azure Functions. And finally, if you're new to Microsoft Graph, the Graph Explorer is the best place to discover Graph. And if you're a .NET developer, we are waiting all of you to join Hack Together starting from tomorrow. Don't forget to register. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, I can answer in the chat. I don't want to take too much of your time because there are 2 more presentations coming, I guess.
Excellent. Thank you, Ayça. Really, really cool stuff and a great demo. Really, really awesome demo. Just showcasing the value here. Now, let's then jump to Garry's screen, and we're going to talk about Teams Toolkit Learning Path. Moving forward within that series, I think we are in module 2 or 3.
2.
Okay. Because we did reschedule some of the stuff at some. I'm so confused. So which is not that rare.
Reschedule.
Yes. Which is quite typical in my case, but it's okay. Luckily, I have colleagues who can correct me when I'm wrong. But thank you, Garry. Let's jump on your side. We can see the screen. Take it away.
Perfect. Okay, great. So as Vesa just mentioned, yes, so this is part 2 of a series. Today is build a bot using Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. My name is Garry Trinder. I'm a cloud developer advocate at Microsoft. Moving on. So like I mentioned, this is part of the learning path. The learning path is build and deploy apps for Microsoft Teams using Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. It is live in Microsoft Learn. If you want to go check out that now, use the short link at the bottom, which is aka.ms/learn/Teams Toolkit. So last week we covered just getting started. So that was going through Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code, how you could install it and create a new project from the samples gallery. So if you didn't watch that, that should be available. If not now, it will be soon on the Microsoft 365 community YouTube channel. This week, we're going to be covering building bots. And then for next week, we will be covering building tabs. Then how Teams JavaScript library integrates with some of the projects as well. And finally, we're going to go through how to deploy and publish your app to your Teams tenant using Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. So today, like I mentioned, we're going to cover building bots. What I want to do quickly, just a quick recap. If you didn't see the session last week where we covered getting started with Teams Toolkit, Teams Toolkit is a Visual Studio Code extension that enables you to build and debug and deploy Teams apps right from Visual Studio Code. So if you're a JavaScript developer or TypeScript developer and you're running on the different operating systems as well, Windows and Mac, then this is a tool that you can use to build your Teams apps. However, there is another flavor of Teams Toolkit as well, just to mention. So it is built into Visual Studio 2022. So if you're a .NET developer using C# and on Windows, then definitely check that out as well. But for this series, we're just covering Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code at the moment. Just want to call out the prerequisites. So everything I'm going to go through today, you need a Microsoft 365 tenant that's also been enabled for side-loading custom apps. You obviously need Visual Studio Code because we're working with a Visual Studio Code extension, and it's built on top of JavaScript, so you're going to need the Node runtime installed as well. Okay, so let's get into building bots. So first of all, I guess, what is a bot? So a bot is a capability within a Teams app that provides you with a conversational interface to basically be able to create apps that can simplify and automate repetitive tasks, things like ordering. You could go to a bot, you could create an order, put your details into an interactive card that could be returned back to you, and then carry on with your day. Nice, easy way of interacting with a bot. It could be something that uses natural language and is something more like ChatGPT. It could get that advanced. Or it simply could be a mechanism as well to notify members in your organization, employees of when they need to do something. So you can actually send proactive messages into a bot chat as well. And that's great for, needing some action. It's not all instigated by an end user. The system can send messages out to users as well. Now, bots can be used across Microsoft Teams. So the screenshot in front of you, this is a personal app. So this is a bot that you can use and interact with. There are other places that you can put them. So you can put them in a group chat. You can also put them in a team channel and also into a Teams meeting as well. So you've got lots of places where you could potentially add a bot into your workflow, improve communication, speed up efficiencies, run meetings better. These can be used in all those different areas. And I mentioned with the notifications as well. So nice way of being able to call people's attention to maybe perform a task is when a message is sent into Teams to the bot. You get a nice toast notification there that you can click on it and go straight to that message, and then act upon whatever is needed. So I want to talk a little bit about this proactive message approach, and we kind of touched on this in last week in session when we talked about the customer support scenario. And I want to kind of focus on this agent reminder bot. So we talked about how this bot could send a proactive message to a support engineer about a critical incident. So this could be something that is in a support system, an external signal that happens, and we want to trigger a message to go into Teams to that support engineer to remind them, or actually, again, it could be a critical incident to actually take some form of action. Now, there's a few things that you need to actually develop a bot for Teams. The first thing that you're going to need is a web server. So this is going to be where your code actually runs. This is where your bot logic is going to be running. You need an Azure bot service. So this is the service that you're going to interact with from the code side that is actually going to send messages into Teams, and you receive messages back as well. We need an Azure AD app registration. So this is so that we can connect from our web server to the bot service using a client ID and password. And we also need a HTTP tunnel as well. So because we're developing locally on our web server and the Azure bot service is running in Azure in the cloud, we need to be able to provide a tunnel from our local address. So the Azure bot service has a public address that it can send messages to, and that tunnel will forward messages to our local web server. And finally, we need a Microsoft Teams app package. So this is the app package that we're going to deploy into Teams. It's going to tell Teams that this app contains a bot and all of the necessary information that Teams needs to be able to serve that bot in the user interface, and users be able to actually install that and use. So those were all the different components, and how do these interact? Well, we have our web server, and it talks about the bot service and our app registration. So we need this app registration to provide this authentication between our running code and the bot service. We need the tunnel that sits in between, that is going to basically be the go-between, the middleware, if you like, between our locally running code and the bot service running in Azure. We need our Teams package, which goes into Teams, so that can actually be used. And then the bot service and Teams are going to interact. The messages are going to get from our local web server through the tunnel to Azure bot service, and then into Teams, into locations where that bot is installed. So how does Teams Toolkit actually help us here? Well, it provides a number of steps for us to get up and running very quickly. So when we create a bot using Teams Toolkit and we hit the F5 button, it's going to do a number of things for us that we don't have to do, and speeds up the development time massively. So first, it verifies and installs that we've got all the prerequisites on our machine. It starts an instance of the ngrok HTTP tunnel service. It creates our Azure AD app registration for us. It creates the Azure bot service registration for us, then compiles all the bot code, starts the local web server, generates that Teams app package, deploys that app package to Teams, starts debugging session, and then finally it opens up a browser window that allows us to go to the Teams web client and actually install that app and then use it straight away. And that's all from just one press of a button, which is handling a lot of setup and configuration behind the scenes that's going to enable you to go from nothing to a running bot pretty quickly. So let's talk about how we can trigger this proactive message once Teams Toolkit has got everything set up. So we have our web server and we have a client, and that client is going to send a HTTP post. Our web server is going to intercept that message. It's going to send that up to the Azure bot service, which is then going to send that message into Teams. What does that look like? Well, it just looks like any normal HTTP post. Couple of examples there. So you can either use PowerShell or curl to just send a post request into your local web server and trigger the message. So sending a message, you can send text or you can send an adaptive card. Quick refresher if you don't know what an adaptive card is. So this is a declarative way of designing interactive cards using JSON schema. So basically we can use the adaptive cards approach to combine our data, combine our templates, generate a card and send that in our message. So how does that look from the code side? So this is the code that is given to you in the template. So to just explain what this code is doing, this is using TeamsFX SDK, which is aimed to make bot development much easier. This for loop will basically get all of the installation targets for where the bot has been installed across Teams. So it'll get the target, we'll loop through them all, and then we're going to send an adaptive card. And it uses this block here, so this adaptive cards declare method first is going to accept a notification template. So this is just a JSON file with the adaptive card template. And then for the render, we're going to pass in a data object. So this has the title, app name, and description and notification URL. The adaptive card will have placeholders in there that we can inject the values into. One thing I just wanted to point out as well is that the target that we've got back actually provides type to us as well. So we can actually understand, well, is this bot running in a personal context? Is it in a group chat? Or is it in a channel? So once we've actually rendered the card, we then send the card through to Teams using this send adaptive card method that's provided on the installation target. And then finally, we just provide a response like you would do with an Azure function. Quickly cover the different target types, like I mentioned. So we've got a few examples here. So we can target a channel. We can loop through channels. We can loop through the members of those channels. We can also do group chats as well. Again, looping through the members of those group chats and actually sending messages. Or we can actually identify individuals and send messages to individuals based on their UPN or email address, or a number of members as well. So with that, let's jump into the demo. So I've got Teams Toolkit Visual Studio Code running here. I'm going to create a new app. Click the Create New Teams app, and I've got 3 options for bots. Now I'm going to create a notification bot here. It gives us a few options. I'm going to choose a HTTP trigger running on Azure Functions and use JavaScript. Use the default location and type in ticket alerts and scaffold this app. So Teams Toolkit has created our app. If you've seen Azure Functions before, this should be quite familiar. But here's the code here, the HTTP trigger code that I showed in the slides. This is what's going to be executed when we run this. And so let's run that now. I'm going to open Teams Toolkit in here. I'm already logged in to my tenant. So I'm now just going to go to local here, and I'm going to debug in Edge. So we're going to see all the steps that Teams Toolkit provides us with. Like I said before, it's going to go through and it's going to install lots of dependencies. It's going to check for prerequisites, so it's checking that Azure Functions is there and ngrok is there as well, and it's making sure that we're all authenticated and everything is okay. So what it's doing now is it's just quickly installing the npm packages. Okay, so that's done. It's starting a local tunnel service in the background, doing the registrations. So it's already done the Azure AD app. Now it's doing the bot registration. And now it's generating the app package and uploading that into Teams as well. So the next step will be to open up Edge and run the Azure function as well. So there we can see our notification endpoint. And in another screen, it's just opened up. So I'm just going to log in. There we go. So I'll add that in. So that has set up the bot, and then I can come into PowerShell and I can send a post request. So this could be anything. This could be another web service. It could be Postman. And there it's triggered the message. So it's rendered the adaptive card in there with a button. And that is how quick it is to create a bot using Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. Lots of resources available to you for be able to extend this bot. I'll post these in the chat just shortly. And just a reminder, for next week, we're going to go through building tabs. And there we are. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you. Now, David, we have 10 minutes. If we go a bit long, it's okay because we want to get your demo recorded. But let's see how things go.
Yes, thanks. And I'm going to try to make it in 10 minutes. We'll see. So let me share my screen. I don't have any slides. So my name is David. So I will show you only the project in action, a bit of code. I'm a principal program manager working on the Teams Toolkit. So thank you, Garry, to show what we are working on. And the easiest way to contact me is to discuss with me on Twitter at Dave Roos, which is also my Microsoft alias. So I'm working on the toolkit on my side, and I was thinking about the next step to help you building application for mobile. So I don't know if you followed the recent news, but we announced that we are officially supporting, apps on Android, for instance. So you can build a tab app, a personal app, for instance, and view it on your Android smartphone. But also it comes on iPhones and maybe in the future in many devices. You can now build using the Microsoft Toolkit or any other way to build it, like at Team or whatever you can build for Teams, but you can also deploy it for Outlook, Office.com. So many different environments, but also many different devices and also form factor. So I was trying to think, as a PM for the next stage to help you on how to improve the debugging of those apps on like an iPhone, for instance, from a Windows PC. And we know that debugging an iPhone is probably the most painful one because normally you need a Mac to do it. Plus the fact that you cannot today attach a debugger on the Teams apps on iPhone. So you have really no ways to remote debug an app on an iPhone. So I'm going to present you a project I've been working on in the past. It's named Vorlon.js, which was an open source project I was working a couple of years ago, and I'm currently updating it with a Teams in India working on the Teams mobile platform. So they are doing an amazing work to take the source code that was 7-8 years old and fix it, improve it. So I'm going to show you like the existing version of Vorlon.js. So what it does is pretty simple in a way. This is a Node.js application that is using Socket.io, so WebSockets. And what we're going to do is we're going to reference a script at the beginning of our Teams application, which is a web app, and then this specific package is going to monitor every call to the console.log. It's going to enable like a basic DOM inspector, a remote DOM inspector, and it's going to send back all events from the client. So it could be an iPhone, it could be an Android, it could be whatever. We're being able even to debug a Tesla, because you got a web browser on a Tesla, and it's going to send that back to the developer machine, and then you will be able to do some basic inspection. So let's see that together. So the first step is I defined a specific ngrok configuration file, one for the local host where my Teams app is going to be hosted, so it's being defined by the Teams Toolkit, and one for Vorlon.js that I have installed on my machine. So Vorlon is running there. So I've launched Vorlon.js. So I've done an npm install of Vorlon and install that in the global space of my machine. And it's running on this specific port that now being exported on this public URL thanks to ngrok. And the other URL is my Teams app being exposed on the second public URL thanks to ngrok. So I'm using the next version of the toolkit that we released in the previous state. We're using a newer architecture that is simpler for you to really check everything being done by the toolkit and remove or plug your own logic where you like to. And now it's really easy to control, the various endpoints. So I've injected the public endpoint of ngrok. And last but not least, this is what I was explaining you. I've got the specific script at the beginning, which is Vorlon.js, the client side of Vorlon.js, that once is going to be loaded first, and then it will monitor everything being done on the client to be able to send all the event back to your developer machine. So I already pressed F5, try to be sure that I will be in time. Let's check the application. The application is there, so it's running for now on my PC, and I'm going to show how it works fully locally in a way. And I've got also the Vorlon dashboard being there. I'm going to snap it on the right. So I'm going to load the app, and you're going to see that normally a new client is being connected there. So thanks to the script that was at the beginning, WebSocket was used with Socket.io to send events back to the Vorlon.js dashboard to tell me like a new client joined the Vorlon.js server, and now you can remote debug in a way what's going on. So like having a DOM inspector. So you're going to tell me like, okay, David, this is not that impressive because I can do that with F12, locally on my machine. So the next step now is to do the same, but on first an Android device. So I'm going to enable this Android device, which is a Surface phone. So I'm going to open the same app, which is there. So it's going to load it. And if it works well, you see now I see an Android device that's connected, which is this one. So I'm going to, if I'm lost, for instance, you've got too many devices, I've got to identify a client button, which is going to tell me which is one. So number one is Android. So I only have one Android device for now connected. So now I can see the remote console. So what we're seeing that is the console of this device, meaning that you see that I don't have any USB cable. I'm running over Wi-Fi on my local machine. It's going to connect to ngrok and come back to my machine. So there is a big loop. But then I can now check the console of my remote device, which could be already super useful because sometimes it's not running on your device, but you have no clue of what's going on. Thanks to Vorlon.js, you have the remote debug being available. And once again, now I can have some basic, debugging capabilities. So we're still trying to fix Vorlon, but let's imagine I'm clicking there and I would like to have access to the layout. You see that I can already see some properties of this current HTML and CSS rendering on my device. And I can modify some stuff that I'm going to do that now on the second device, which is my iPhone. And this one, normally, you shouldn't be able to debug that because there's no real way outside of this technology to do it. And obviously, it has disconnected from my PC. So I'm going to reconnect. So now I've got the iPhone still in wireless, in Wi-Fi. I'm going to open the same app. So Teams is in French. So let's pretend it's also to test localization. And you see this time, and this is something we're going to tell to my team, working on a new dashboard sample that we're going to ship for you in the next version of the toolkit. We have an issue there. So to potentially debug it, you see now I've got an iOS device connected, so I'm going to connect on this device. And what I will be able to do now is to update some stuff. So let's imagine I like to update this part, for instance. And the first div, you see that where is the content itself? There. Your list going to HTML, and I'm going to update it live. So let's type your list too, saving. And I don't know if you've seen that, but now it's being updated on my iPhone, which is cool. I can even remote execute some code because I can send some instruction back to my device. So let's do something very simple, like this is the beauty of JavaScript in a way, that I can execute code live. So if I'm pressing enter, so you see on my device, it managed to receive the code execution and do something. So I can really have some basic remote debugging capabilities thanks to Vorlon.js that you see that you just have to reference it at the beginning and be able to do many things. So for instance, I can go to the Object Explorer and go to, I don't know, the Navigator object, for instance, that should be there. Going on the prototype, and we see that I'm currently running an iPhone, with the OS version. So I can have a lot of information on my remote device from this dashboard. So what we are planning to do is to try to integrate that as a VS Code extension and probably also in the toolkit. So we are working in our team with in India to do that. We would love to have your feedback of what you would love to see in this product. Is it still enough, or do you need more? So for instance, today, I cannot live edit the style because it's broken in Vorlon, but we're going to update it. So you will be able to live edit the style on the remote device. That should give you a lot of productivity boost rather than trying to guess what's going wrong. And for instance, you see that I've got an issue on my graph there. So I will be able to use myself Vorlon to fix our sample for the toolkit. So this is something very useful for us to fix application. I know we have a little bit of more time. I like to do a test. So last time I broken the meeting, but this time I shouldn't broke the meeting. So I'm going to share this URL with you in the chat. And if you go on it, it's the application running on my local machine on ngrok. But you will see that if you click on it and open that in your browser, I should see people connecting in my dashboard. And I can remote debug, for instance, an application. So I see that's a Windows machine, a Linux machine. So Linux machines should be fun. So who is the Linux machine? Can you please share? Like it's number 5. So I'm going to click on identify a client. So Linux, I don't know who you are, but I'm going to try to connect to your machine. So if you can share in the chat who is running on Linux. But you see that I can remote, so everything is being hosted on my machine. So if you would like to do more, connection, I should probably have a public server in Azure or something else in the cloud to be able to remote debug it. But you see, we can basically remote debug anything thanks to Vorlon because it's pure web technology. It's socket using a Node.js app. So I can basically remote debug something hosted in Outlook.com, in Outlook, the rich clients, or in Teams itself. So really, it was trying to share some fun with you. If you're interested in knowing more, please contact me on Twitter or to the team, and share any feedback you may have that may be something useful for you. And this is it. This is the end of my demo. So I can stop sharing my screen somewhere.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Really, really cool stuff. And that's going to be really helpful for sure, and going to improve a lot on the debugging side. It's always so hard to do debugging on the desktop experiences. So this will be really, really cool. So awesome stuff. And a lot of positive feedback on the chat as well. So please contact David for your feedback, and let's give input. Was that fun or not? Let us know. Now, thank you, Ayça. Thank you, Garry. Thank you, David, for the great demos today. Next week, we'll have Ayça talking about Dynamically Create Azure Communication Services Identity and Token. Garry is going to continue Teams Toolkit Learn Path series. And Waldek is going to do a recap on the Microsoft Graph Hackathon. So if you didn't make it to the hackathon, didn't have the time to participate, we'll cover that on upcoming weeks as well. So you can actually kind of stay up to date on what's happening there and what are the things, what happened on the previous week always. But thank you for joining today. The recording will be in 24 hours at the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community channel at AKMS/community/videos. Do subscribe there and to stay up to date when its stuff is available. And we'll have the next call within a week. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the week. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll be in touch. Bye-bye.